The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show that's brought to you with Levi Solicitors. That 10% discount is yours via levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan with you. Michael's here as well. And so is Moscow White. You can get all these podcasts ad-free in a dedicated podcast feed in your chosen podcast app as well via TSB Plus, our membership package. You get priority access to the match ball after the game. Loads of perks, extra... we can't say content, can we, Moscow? It's not content. Shows.
No, they are podcasts.
Yes, extra shows in the form of...
I don't know if you've encountered the Buttercup. I mean, it's definitely a podcast, it is, isn't it? But
yep. The Buttercup is very good. That's over on the Extra Ball, our bonus show that we do for members, and that is it's a head-to-head cup of loanees who've represented Leeds over the last sort of 15, 20 years. It's a thrill ride. Phil Hay, we've even managed to cudgel him into getting involved in this.
Yeah, we get him when he's here and he can't move. just stay sat down, Phil.
And we've had a double header about Eric Cantona as well this week, former Leeds United favourite, Eric Cantona, and his arrival and his departure from Leeds United. And we concluded he was a big old waste of space, didn't we? Not biased at all. If you want to have a look at TSB Plus, it's at thesquareball.net/plus. Fairly quiet news week then for part one of the show. So let's take a look at what is going on in the Premier League in general. And Michael, are you going to bravely call now who's going down?
Well, I did put this...
Because we are at what is called the business end of the season, aren't we?
Yeah, I suppose we are. Can we start our business end after this week? Because the Liverpool and Spurs...
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't really fancy that.
We're going to do the Spurs preview in part two. We'll beat them, don't worry about that.
Let's say the last 12 games of the business end, because that looks more achievable. I mean, Moscow, you've been reassuring me in recent weeks that Newcastle can't win any games, and also that Watford and Burnley won't win any games, and they're all winning games. How do you account for this? I feel like
wrong.
I feel like you should. I feel like you should intervene.
I mean,
and 3-0 Burnley winning. That's just too much.
Brighton had they sold Dan Burn to Newcastle, and then their two, who are their other good centre backs? It's Webster,
Ben White.
Ben White, yeah.
Ben White's already gone, and who's the other one that's decent? They were all gone anyway. The one was suspended, one was injured, so it wasn't their proper team, and they just choked.
Right.
Let Burnley do whatever they wanted.
I mean, that does only get Burnley up to 2 wins for the season. It's not exactly.
It does.
It's not a run, is it?
How does a run start, though?
Well, it becomes a run when you string a few of these together, but they're not going to do, are they?
Probably not. I did have them avoiding relegation, though, when I went through these results.
Okay. So have you've basically put these into a predictor. This is where we're at. We've got all the fixtures, for the bottom 8 teams on a thing here. What is it? Spreadsheet.
Yeah, I just put them on one sheet to make it easier. I did go through and estimate points, which is obviously ridiculously impossible, but I did have us staying up just by 3 points.
By 3?
By 3 points. Although I think it was very close, though. There were 2 teams in between us as well. I had Watford, Norwich and Brentford going down. But
that's interesting.
But the Brentford-Burnley switch was dependent on the result of their game. So if that went the other way, the relegation went the other way as well. So it's tight.
Brentford are spiralling. And they're hilarious. And Thomas Frank has completely lost his mind, whatever he had. I don't know if you've been... I've been writing, sort of trying to keep up with what's been going on in the other games on our blog. And so I've been giving my face full Frank, which is unusual from earlier in the season, paying attention to things he said. So when they drew 0-0...
are we allowed to speak about Brentford just before you get into this? I do know it became a problem earlier in the season.
Just keep it respectful.
Because a problem for you, I wasn't here. They would have been absolutely comfortable with anything I said.
Are they living rent-free in our heads, or are we just talking about what's going on in the division? Just need to check before we carry on.
Anyway, they drew 0-0 with Brentford.
Doesn't even dignify with
the answer. Brentford. They drew 0-0 with Crystal Palace. And what he liked was that the consistency in performances continued, which was, that goalless draw came after 6 defeats in a row. So it was certainly consistent, and it was their first clean sheet since November 28th, which he said, we finally got over the line. But I think the Wolves game was also a clean sheet performance. That was a game that they lost 2-1.
Feels like he's got that one wrong there, Moscow.
And against Manchester City, who beat them 2-0, he said it was close to being a clean sheet performance. And then this weekend, they lost 2-1 to Arsenal, and he said he was very proud of his players because they defended fantastically. We defended the box superb. I don't know why I'm looking at you when I say this, but which is not necessarily wrong, but you do have to take into account that for the second Arsenal goal, Pontus Jansson lost the ball or was beaten in a tackle in Arsenal's half. And then they ran on and scored. So you can say, there was nothing wrong with the way Brentford defended the box, but I think Pontus Jansson being up the other end, lying on the ground, wanting a free kick, was maybe not a contribution. Arsenal had 24 shots against the old Brentford boys, and I just don't know when they are going to win if this guy keeps coming away from we lost 2-0, but we defended brilliantly, and it was very close to a clean sheet performance. What's a clean sheet performance?
It's when you don't concede any goals. So
but they concede goals.
He needs to redefine his definition, doesn't he? I was going to say, but their next 3 games, you've got Newcastle at home, Norwich away, Burnley at home, so there's some important fixtures coming up there.
0-0 draws throughout. If they could actually get some clean sheet performances, I think it would help us if they would just draw all their games.
How would you like this one to pan out? I know...
but the other teams to go down.
I was going to say, would you be happiest? And it's starting to shape up a little bit like that, but I'm aware Burnley have got games in hand. But if we could just get the bottom 3 cut adrift, would that just be...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ideally, a bottom 3 that's properly cut adrift, and then another one that's the team that would get dragged in that isn't us also.
As long as it's not us, then.
Yeah, just keep us a long way from it. I mean, it is in our powers to do it because we have winnable home games, Villa, Norwich, Southampton. If we win those, I think I had us to get in an extra 13 points for the rest of this season. If we can win in the games we should win,
well, I was going to say,
we're kind of almost there.
That is what I did when I went away and looked at this over the weekend before we played Man United, and I concluded that 12 points would probably see us safe, 13 almost definitely out of these remaining fixtures. And if we can't get that, we do probably deserve to go down. If we can't achieve that over the course of a season, we deserve to be where we are. Because if we get to 35, you're then talking about the other teams, effectively all 3 of them at the bottom, Watford, Burnley, Norwich, having to double the points tallies they've got so far in the season in the remaining 13, 14, 15, 16 games in the case of Burnley. It's a big ask. You're asking them to improve their output, greatly compared to what they've done so far.
The other thing I did discover doing this is that not having many games left to play in the case of Brentford is a real disadvantage.
Yeah,
because you can't get as many points when you haven't got as many games to play.
They've only got 12 left, haven't they?
So it's they must have just avoided postponements, I guess, during the COVID times around Christmas. So they've ended up playing loads more games than everyone else. Burnley have kind of got the opposite problem in that they've still got games that are yet to be scheduled because they're trying to squeeze stuff into and they're probably going to end up with some cup rearrangements as well if they end up. I don't know when their games against good teams who are still in the cup. I don't pay much attention to the FA Cup once we get knocked out, but there'll be something moved in there as well probably. So hopefully they'll end up with a big clog and that giant they've got up front will break his legs.
And the other thing to factor into this is as well, a lot of these sides still have to play one another, so everyone's going to be taking points off each other. So the more draws we can get in there, the fine, because then both teams drop 2 points. And I know everyone goes, well, we shouldn't have to rely on other people, but that's how a table works.
And you can't help. It was so much fun last year not having to look at the table, wasn't it?
But we did. That's not true.
It still works.
That's not true. Yeah, I hate it.
We weren't safe.
I didn't hate.
Fulham are going to come good.
It's got to the point now with me. I don't know about you, but I've stopped sleeping properly again now. I'm waking up early every morning thinking about football because it's stressing me. That's why. And again, we talked about the reasons why we want to get this season over versus actually trying to enjoy the individual moments that might yet occur. Like, for example, the Sunday, perfect example. That minute of brilliance with the 2 goals, but then set it against the 4 that we shipped at the other end. But yeah, it's stressing me now, and I want to know that we're going to be all right. It's a massively immature way to look at things, but here we are. I'm a football fan. Maturity is not my job, is it?
Yeah, it's definitely playing on my mind in a way that it didn't last year. I know you're saying we weren't safe, but there was certainly more distance.
We were safer than this.
We were safer than this. I think that was the thing. Maybe once Calvin comes back, everything will be fine. I mean, we can just get win a few games in a row. Just a bit of a run would completely sort us out at this stage.
I actually think a win in the next. I know it's Liverpool away, it's Spurs at home, but if we were to somehow win one of those games, it puts a massively different complexion on the table, because then you probably only need 9 or 10 points to stay up from the rest of the season. It's the wins that are massive, isn't it? Quite frankly.
I also, against the Man United, I kind of came up with an idea of how we can do it as well, and it's just playing all your best players at once.
Yeah.
All the players who'll score goals, so that's Rafinha and Gelhardt, just put them on the pitch.
Yeah.
And we might stay up, because the defence is a complete shit show. So let's just pretend that's not happening and try and score more goals.
As Marcelo said this morning in the press conference, Tuesday morning, it's not the defence. I didn't say the defence, as he replied. I said the defensive unit.
And he's right.
Yeah.
It isn't a one-off thing, is it?
You could maybe, if your defensive unit is struggling, get some better players for your defensive unit. Put one in defensive midfield. Sign somebody for £50 million and put him in there. Should we do that?
Just let Dan James chase people. that might also do the job.
What do you reckon to the rest of the season then, Moscow? You're normally quite zen about it and confident that we'll stay up.
It's interesting that we are still above Everton and Newcastle. I know Everton have got a game in hand, but Everton, I think it's important to stress what Everton did over the weekend is exactly what every Leeds fan knew they were going to do, which is go to Southampton and be absolutely diabolical. Absolutely no trace of anything that they did against Leeds that worked for them was just all out the window because they cared about beating Leeds and they didn't care about beating Southampton. And now Frank Lampard has already gone back after his chucklesome time against us when he was giggling away on the sidelines, taking all the credit for everything that's good. Straight in after the game.
Sensing you're not a fan.
The players need to understand that the second half is not good enough.
Is that how he sounds?
Enough.
It's funny. It sounded like Solskjaer.
I had to speak to them. He had to speak to them. Can you imagine? Because I have been very positive, and as staff, we have had an uplift. But today we drifted back into being a team I don't want us to be. So the players need to hear it.
Oh, so they've gone back to being Benitez's Everton, haven't they?
Exactly. And he's talking about the players' mentality. Whereas his mentality is fine because he's gone in, he's been positive, arm around the shoulder. Just why don't you enjoy your football? We'll get Dele in, and he's like, we'll put a smile on his face. It reminds me of Steve Evans when he said that when he arrived, Suleiman Dakara's heart was crying. But 3 weeks with Steve Evans, and he's coming into training with a smile on his face. No. And this is it. Lampard's whole act, he just falls into that group of self-serving managers, the Warnocks, the Steve Evans of this world, who when everything is about, when Bielsa talks about what he does, it's about I am taking responsibility for this. But when Lampard talks about what he does, it's about him saying I've had to speak to I've had to speak to them, I've had to do something because, and it was the same when he talked about when they lost at Newcastle and he was asked you've played at St James's Park, you know what the atmosphere here can be like. What did you tell the players to prepare them for that? He said, well, told them to be prepared for it. And then he started going about like, no, obviously. And then you think that's a joke, but then he backed it up as serious. He's like, no, I told them before the game that they had to handle it. They had to be prepared for it. So it's not. So he told them. Sorry if anyone's listening on headphones.
Hopefully the clean-up process on the podcast will take out all the mic thumps that have just happened.
He told them, and they didn't do it. And that's going to be the story of Everton's season. And that could only last for so long. You have the first couple of weeks where it's like, oh yeah, God, Rafa was boring, wasn't he? But Frank's a good lad. And then they lose one and they get all this. And like, Frank's a dickhead, actually.
It goes back to, I know we don't need to spend too long on Lampard, but it does go back to, and this is part, I think, one of the reasons why Leeds fans don't like him, because of that glossy reputation he's got with the media who love him. But also there was the accusations coming from within Chelsea that he didn't really do any sort of tactical work a lot of the time.
And he's left Jody Morris behind this time, hasn't he? He's got somebody else,
the brains,
to do all the work for him. But it does fit because it's relevant, because one of the things that Everton are relying on to get them out of trouble is him continuing. I mean, they can win at home, they haven't won away yet, and then we've not got Aston Villa's results here.
They're going for Europe, they said the other week. When we managed to get that draw with them, they were saying that European dreams looking a bit of a stretch now.
I mean,
certainly is.
They're 4 points ahead of us. They should, if we were there where Villa are, we'd be comfortable, but
they'll be fine.
Gerrard was not happy with them after losing to Watford at the weekend, and they did. I watched a bit of that, and they were poor. And they shouldn't be losing to Watford the way they did.
There were criticisms on their forum saying they should have stuck with Dean Smith. I don't know, you always get the swivel-eyed lunatics, but I mean, already people are writing him off.
I mean, Gerrard was another one. He was talking about motivation, and the players have got to motivate themselves. So that seems to me like they're not motivated. And they also started talking about how they don't have enough quality in the final third, and this goes back to their summer strategy where they were like, no, we've done all the analysis, we'll sell Jack Grealish for £100 million, and statistically we will replace him with these three players. And when you look at the numbers they've put up, they have scored goals, there are assists there from Buendia and Ings and Bailey that probably do add up, but it's not worked. And they've already got Ollie Watkins, and now they've signed Philip Coutinho. I don't know how many more quality forward players they need to actually be a good attacking team, but Steven Gerrard seems to think they're not, and they couldn't score against Watford. So where do they go from there? Hopefully down. I would like 6. You asked me how I wanted the rest of the season to go. I'd like 6 teams to be relegated and none of them to be Leeds. That's the thing.
But we are in the bottom 6, though. That is one thing to point out about this. But yeah,
no, I don't care. I think we should finish bottom but stay up.
But you are right though. If we chalked another, as I was saying before, if we chalked another 3 points onto this, and we were on 26 and Villa are only on 27, it would look a lot healthier. You go, yeah, that's probably too big a gap for the teams at the bottom to close.
But even then, that's where the original conversation about how safe you can be. We were having that conversation. I mean, I was never particularly worried last season. I don't think we were, but there was the spectre of Fulham getting their act together was always there, even though we were up where the likes of Leicester and Aston Villa are now. But Leicester's form isn't helping them get away from the relegation worries below them, and it's weird because we said the business end. It's 14 games the business
end.
We're
getting close to, as he said, 2 more games maybe,
and then close to the business end, and Burnley having like 35 matches left to play is obviously confusing.
I think it'll feel like the business end, as you said. I mean, like, joking aside, when we get these 2 out of the way, because you are identifying that run of fixtures as this is the fate of the season lies in Leicester away, Villa at home, Wolves away, Norwich at home, Southampton at home, and then Watford away. I mean, that's where it's going to be won or lost, isn't it? Just
strolling away from this whole burning wreck of a relegation battle was possible with the Newcastle and Everton games. If we won those 2, that would be it would be long forgotten with the fact we're in a relegation battle. But we buggered it up. I mean,
4 points puts us mid-table along with Leicester and Villa, doesn't it? So it's fine margins.
I think it's above them. Southampton is the line, because Southampton are on 32 points. They played 25 games, but below them, Leicester and Villa need to be careful. They're not in mad trouble, but they do just need to take care of things.
They've got some good players, haven't they? So they'll
have enough, won't they?
And Crystal Palace as well. They're only 3 points ahead of us. We have a game in hand.
They have the manager with the roundest head in the league as well, so that's going to help.
And they've got Conor Gallagher, but they're quite low on wins. Villa have won 8, Crystal Palace have only won 5, Brentford have won more than them. We've won 5 as well. So there's the bottom half of the Premier League there isn't a safe place in it yet. It's Southampton upwards where everyone can just go relax. So the wins over Newcastle and Everton would have made us feel so much better, but there's still the wariness, and maybe the performance against Scum hopefully suggests that there's a bit of like screwed heads on, and we know that we've got Calvin Phillips hopefully coming back.
Just looking at that bottom half, and on this sheet we've got the form table as well, which shows you the last 5 games. Like you get the tick or the cross or the line for the draw. I'm just totting up the number of wins there have been in the bottom half. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's just 10 wins in that entire bottom half from a sample size of 50 games. So 1 in 5, and 3 of those are Newcastle, who've had a bounce, but they may plateau a little bit because they've lost St Maximin.
I'm interested to see Brentford's next 3 games. I think that'll be interesting to see, because we're kind of highlighting our section of must-win matches in a few weeks' time. But Brentford's next 3 games are, and bear in mind they have far fewer games in the first place. They have Newcastle at home, Norwich away, Burnley home, Leicester away. If they come off that with anything less than probably 6 points, you have to say they're in an awful lot of trouble.
This is the beautiful thing, isn't it? They either get dragged in via that, or they help to get rid of the bottom 3.
Well, I don't know what they really offer at the moment, because their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can't count 3s.
They've had 1 draw and 7 defeats in 8, I think.
Yes,
something like that.
And one of those defeats was to Everton in the FA Cup, which you can probably count because it was like a first team fixture. But so if you take that into account, they lost 6 in a row. That's not good. And I don't care how Thomas Frank tries to spin it like, oh no, we were near to some clean sheets. We saw some in the distance. That's not going to help them. And the goals, they're not scoring either in particularly wild numbers. So Brentford are the big worries, and it would also be, funny.
Yeah. I suspect the bottom three as it is now might go down, but you never quite know, do you? It's going to take a hell of a run from Burnley, even though they've got the surplus of games to do. They've got 16 left. It's still quite a big ask, isn't it, to close that gap? They're already 5 adrift.
Yeah, it's. You always then caveat it with your own form to think that Burnley have got to this stage of the season and they've won 2, because that's pathetic. But then you look at us and we've won 5, and you're like, well, that's not great, is it?
And we've conceded a huge amount of goals as well.
But I was joking about pissing Deitch off by, if we concede 100 goals and stay up, and he has like the best defence in the division and goes down, that'd just be funny. But how are they going to get, all those wins that they need between now and the end of the season? Can they draw themselves to safety? Watford managed to get a win against a limp Villa. Are they going to be playing limp teams every week? But then, are we going to beat Leicester, Villa, Wolves, Norwich, Southampton, Watford? That's the big run of games.
Well, we need 3 wins out of it, don't we? And then some draws probably is going to be enough. But I'd quite like to see us go out there and win sort of 4 of the remaining games. That'd make things a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, just let's have a nice relaxing end to the season and let's have a bit of a party atmosphere at Ellen Road for at least some games.
Yeah, particularly if this is
horrible, tense kind of. I mean, I say I don't want that. It's kind of been. It's sort of fun in a way. It makes you feel alive, doesn't it?
It's like heroin.
Something to look forward to. Like we have to win.
Yeah, like the win against Palace felt like a really big win. Whereas if that had have come at the end of last season, it'd have been like, "Way, that's good."
The draw against Brentford, and those things. I mean, it's you're getting into generalities about the Premier League, but when you're in it and your second season out of the Championship, all you've got to really look forward to is staying in it. So it's that thing of, do we have a bus parade when we stay up? Because it is a massive achievement to stay in the Premier League, no matter what kind of strategy you deploy, what transfers you do, what tactics you have, who your manager is, any of that kind of stuff. If you manage to stay in the Premier League, then you are doing well, and it's all about staying there for as long as you can out of once you're promoted. But there's a chance as well with these games coming up, because we are still before the stage of last season where we went on the good run, and it was the good run last year that kind of gave us that esteem where we felt like, oh, this is Leeds, we're back, we're a 9th mid-table, we could get into Europe next season, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that we're going to go on another run and win 10 in a row, but I would like, given the way that the first half of the season went with so many injuries and whatever else has affected us, to go to Leicester and Villa and Wolves and Southampton and Watford and Palace and just beat them, and just say that actually whatever happened in the first half of the season, Leeds United is in the mix with those teams. We're not, because it's the thing about the letdown after losing to Scum, and the Wednesday night will be when we lose to Liverpool. They're not the teams that we're competing with, and that's when people say like, all these this great tearing out of hair about how you can't use this system against Manchester City and Liverpool and all this stuff. They're going to beat us anyway. It's whether the system.
That's the spirit.
It's whether the system and whether what
That's
we
your
do.
Liverpool preview done?
There's me being positive and happy clappy as usual. It's whether your system and the way you play and the players you have can beat Leicester, Villa, Wolves. That's where we need to be beating those teams. And I will be more annoyed, and I'm more annoyed that we haven't done it so far this season, of getting results against those sides, because they're the ones it's maybe even, if you want to be charitable to Leeds, you say, okay, yeah, second season out, if you finish in the bottom 6, it's enough. But if you want those signs of progress, the progress will be consistently beating Wolves. I don't think we've even got a point off them since we've been promoted, have we?
Bastards.
We did draw earlier in the season.
Did we get a point for it?
I think we did, yeah.
They do still do that.
It's the Rodrigo late penalty, wasn't
yeah,
it?
the 95th
Of course it
minute.
was. Yeah, Joffrey won.
I was just going to say, just on that final home game, if you look at the run of home games, the last three are Chelsea at home, Man City at home. I mean, Chelsea, you probably give us, in a weird way, more of a fighting chance than against Man City, who just obviously seem to have our number based on the evidence earlier in the season. But
not last season.
You don't know if we can get something resembling a midfield out against them. Who knows what could happen?
I mean, we got through it at Elland Road last season when Calvin Phillips looked absolutely lost for half an hour, and then we got it together. So City will beat City. We'll lose to Liverpool, but we'll beat Manchester City.
Well, and who knows? They may have the league wrapped up and be resting place for the Champions League or something. In which case, they'll only have to play their second string of
actually
£500 million.
If there is still a title race at that point, it might make them nervous. You never know. You never know. But I was just going to say, finally, on this point, was that Brighton at home. I'd like that to be a nice day where there's, it's not a fixture you're necessarily going to get that wound up for. It's not the same as like Man United at home, is it, or Liverpool or anything like that. It's just one of those middling clubs, and if it is Bielsa's final home game where we can celebrate him and enjoy it,
don't talk about it.
We have to face up to it, don't we?
I know.
Why?
We probably do, but yeah, we'll do it nearer the time. not yet.
But it could be and should be and hopefully will be a carnival day. Should we go for that?
Let's have that rather than a relegation.
We don't want Leeds. I was going to say, just finally, we don't want Leeds Fury, whatever that is.
No, Leeds Furries, yeah, people dressing up in costumes, etc.
No, Fury is slightly similar, but slightly different. It's not furry.
Are you signed up, Moscow, for the Fury?
I have actually followed it on Twitch. Yes.
Oh, on Twitch.
Yes.
For the benefit of anybody who doesn't know what it is, and I don't quite know what it is, it seems to be like a gaming space they've created for.
Yeah, you can just watch people playing computer games.
All right, I do that at home when my son does that.
It's a bit like watching people playing football.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough. Is it any good?
Not really. I tried watching it last year because they did they put the PES Championship on.
PES being the little sweets you get on holiday with the neck back.
Pro Evo, as it's also called.
Not even that.
I think it's changed its name again, hasn't it? So there were people competing against each other on computer games, playing football computer games. And I can't remember. I mean, it was lockdown, wasn't it? So there was really very little you could do. I suppose you could watch one of the fantastic creations of world cinema from the last 100 years of moving images, or you could watch some people playing computer games on your telly.
I mean, given that on the Extra Ball early episodes we played a board game and there was no pictures, we were just describing it. I don't think we can criticise anybody for Leeds Fury.
Well, this is it. It does get sneered at because people say, "Oh, you're just watching people playing a game." But then football, I could play football or I could watch teams playing football who were better at it than me. And I did when I was growing up. I played lots and lots of Sensible World of Soccer, and
Swaz.
I have looked on. I've looked on Twitch to see if anybody's playing much of that, and to see if I could watch some people playing it and have a bit of that would be nostalgia. And then I was intrigued by the tournament last year. Is he called Aleppo or something? The guy who represents Leeds in these
Isn't
things.
that an ice lolly?
I think he might be Icelandic.
Ah,
I'm not sure. I think he might be from a Scandinavian.
that's a joke
nation.
It's a joke on Calippo.
One of our friends from up there, and
I'm feigning ignorance to try and make
there was
crap jokes.
There was
he's not even indulging me, is he?
Bit
Nope.
of
Good.
where just that thing that sport does, where if it's one team against another and you have even the vaguest association of one, even if you just like the kit, you start rooting for him. So I was hoping he would do well, and it's fine. Like, I can understand the.
Is it as good as our Championship Manager stream? Because that's on YouTube now, by the way. Sell.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's 24 hours of pure pleasure watching that, whereas this, it doesn't even come close.
Is anyone drunk on this?
I mean, they don't seem to be old enough for any of that. It was genuinely because they show they have the video cameras on them as they're playing. You are watching like lads sitting in their bedrooms, but they do maybe an indication of how it's quite lucrative for some of them. Is I think it was a Man City one, or their representative. He had like his personal logo done in neon hanging on his bedroom wall, so it was all like his bedroom's all purple, and then you've got like his unmade bed just there, but then it's all big. His whole like setup and all the gifts and things that he's been given are all there to see that he's prospering.
It's a
at
mad
this.
world, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I take an interest in it, to see just how strange 2022 is becoming.
Michael, how old are your boys?
8.
Do you get them drunk before they play computer game?
Always. Yeah. I don't have to get them drunk. They just help themselves.
Straight to the cupboard.
They know where the booze is. They just help themselves.
Just takes the edge off, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Calms them down a little bit. Right, that does wrap up part 1. Then we've got Heroes and Villains to come in part 3. Part 2, we will preview Liverpool and Spurs. Wow, that'll be good fun, won't it?
The Square Ball Podcast.